Well, hello, and welcome to the PJH Writing Command Center for another podcast episode from God Bless the Cake Publishing LLC. I am Paul John Hausleben of God Bless the Cake Publishing LLC. I am your flagship author, chief photographer, podcast host, music reviewer, music critic, kind of do everything guy here at God Bless the Cake Publishing LLC with a little help from my friends. My friends are here today, and we're having a wonderful time here in the PGH Writing Command Center. It is President's Day weekend, so we have an extra day off on Monday. How about that? Although here at God Bless the Cake Publishing LLC, we're not going to take Monday off. I have a big project. We're working on the new book, Quest for Good, A Quest for Good, a feel-good novel, and been working with the cover artists on it, and it's close. It's very, very close. We had projected I think it was a 5th of March release, 2026. I don't think we're going to make that. But we're going to come close. But so we have to work on some projects. I'm working on a new book, the Winter Collection, too. So I want to write a little bit about that. But this weekend, we've been, so far, I'm recording this on Sunday, a week after the famous Super Bowl. And I'm resisting a rant. Don't rant, Paulie. Don't rant. I'm breathing deep and making sure my chakras are aligned with the universe here to prevent me from going off into a classic rant. I want to get Frankie T back from the famous Frankie T. And he's a great NFL guy, and we're going to sit and debate about the changes in the NFL as opposed to the NFL that we grew up with. But at any rate, I'm just going to classify the Super Bowl in one word, and then I'll leave it at that until the podcast. Boring. It is just incredibly boring. Any rate, let's move on from that. So before we get started here, oh yes, President's Day. So I kind of remember when I was a kid growing up in Paterson, New Jersey, in Haledon, New Jersey, Haledon Public Schools, Paterson Public Schools. I kind of sort of think we got 2 days off for the presidents, right? We got the Washington birthday and we got the Abraham Lincoln birthday. Now they combined it into one big President's Day, which is kind of cool to honor all the presidents. But I have to think these kiddies are getting ripped off. They're not getting, they get off more days than you can imagine now, especially with the fear of weather. But at any rate, before we get going here, let me rattle this text in the background here. And get your little Orphan Annie decoder pins out, because this podcast is proudly sponsored by Culper Facilities Group Incorporated, the leader in technical consulting, facilities maintenance, facilities management and operations, as well as property maintenance and management services throughout America. And now, CFG Incorporated is proud to announce a new department, a new initiative, headed up by the amazing Mr. Steve McMillan. Let's give it up for old Steve. Steve brings his many years of experience as he manages pre-construction services and estimating for residential development, residential renovations, and light commercial projects for CFG Incorporated. So, before you spend big bucks on a project, let old Steve Aruski check out the contractor's scope and price and make sure your hard-earned money is going in exactly the right place. Check them out on the web at www.culperatefacilitiesgroup1.com. That's www.culperatefacilitiesgroup1.com. Many thanks to Lydia, Steve, and Liliana at CFG Incorporated, along with Summer the doggy, Smokey the kitty cat down there in the beautiful, beautiful Marietta, Georgia. Many thanks for sponsoring this podcast. We truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I think Liliana and Lydia and Steve, Liliana is going to be the next great female soccer superstar gal. She's quite a football player, and I think they're at a tournament this weekend. So best of luck in the tournament. Go Liliana and your team. My team, Nottingham Forest, in the Premier League, has now changed to the 4th manager of the year. There must, like my cousin David said, there must be something wrong where we root for these hapless teams, and not that Forest is hapless. I mean, they did great last year in the Premier League. It's just this turmoil this year. So that's another rant. Yeah. I got the Jets. I got Forest. Oh my goodness gracious! And this is going to be a sports chat about my favorite sport, hockey. And the Olympics really inspired me. But before we get to that, we do have a not for profit announcement. And this one comes in from my dear sister. If you have a not for profit, a charity event, a special event for your organization you would like Paulie to mention on a podcast, please email it to godblesskegpublishing at gmail.com. That's godblesskegpublishing at gmail.com. And if you have any comments, any concerns, anything you'd like to chat about, just say hey to Paulie. Send us an email. We'd love to hear from folks. And God bless the keg publishing at gmail.com is the place to send that too. This is fantastic stuff. So my dear sister Dottie, she wanted me to mention this one. Please go to www.figure2.heart.org. That's www, the figure 2, number 2.heart.org. It is a program sponsored by the American Heart Association. Fantastic organization, Kids Heart Challenge. And you'll find all information on the Kids Heart Challenge there, where school kiddies, they join in fundraising events in school, and they learn all about heart healthy activities and skills, and all about maintaining your heart health even as a youngster. And they jump rope. I love jumping rope. My knees don't like it, but I love jumping rope. And they shoot basketball hoops and run all around in cones and jump up and down, have a great time. It's a wonderful thing. And you can donate money. The kiddies are trying to raise money for the American Heart Association through this special activity. So please check it out. If you can donate, that's fantastic. If you just want to support these kiddies and say you're doing a great job, that's fantastic too. www.thefigure2.heart.org. The Kids Heart Challenge. Fantastic stuff. Kids, keep up the good work. We're very proud of you. Very proud of you. Fantastic. And a shout out to Jeff, my buddy Jeff, the musical wizard. Jeff, we're thinking of you. Hope you're feeling better, and keep up the good work there too. So shout out to the great Jeff, musical wizard. We're going to get Jeff on the podcast here very shortly. I hope to get Kim from the board of directors on here too. And I would love to have the musical encyclopedia, Frankie T, on with Jeff, the musical wizard. And I'll just go to sit back in the chair and enjoy that one, because those two guys are amazing when it comes to musical knowledge. So we just, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm going to do it. So today's podcast subject was inspired by the Olympic hockey. And unfortunately, my schedule has been a little precarious as usual. My primary source of income has been trampling me, but and then all my projects and the new book coming out and everything I got going on, and working on some photo shoots for the winter time. And oh my goodness gracious, for a guy with an empty life, Callie Rose from God Bless the Keg Publishing, she would always say, for a guy with an empty life, you're the busiest guy I ever met. So I don't know if that's a compliment or factual. But anyway, the Olympics are on, and I have mixed feelings about it. I'm not able to watch most of it. Here at the Writing Command Center, we're very sparse on furnishings and fixtures. And I do have a TV. I bought it about 2 years ago. It's very small, little TV. I used to just have a little monitor guy that I would tune in with the over-the-air tuner thing on it. And that monitor died, and I said to myself one Christmas 2 years ago, I think it was, I said, I'm going to buy a TV. So I got a little guy, and it sits on a table here. And I obviously have the internet here, but I don't have any of those streaming services. And I have the Sirius XM that I listen on the radio to all my sports. And But I do have an antenna. I'm a radio guy, so of course I have an antenna, and I get the over the air signals. And you do get a lot of stuff on air. I get a lot of channels on the over the air signals. But the Olympic thing, because everything now is different. And, oh my gosh, here we go with the old living in the past, Paulie, the nostalgia, the old man's famous saying, newer doesn't mean better. And they force you to these streaming services, and it's not that I'm a cheapo. I mean, I'm a cheapo, but it's the value add that I would get from it, because I'm just not going to watch it, because I'm not home that much. I'm just not at the writing command center. When I'm here, I'm doing other projects, so I'm just not going to spend X amount of dollars for all this stuff that I'm just not going to watch. It's just going to sit there, to be honest with you. And I'm kind of disappointed, because the Olympic hockey is just not on the regular broadcast channel. It's on the streaming side. And that's a big disappointment, because I would tune in these games. And my cousin David, a big hockey fan, and we're always texting, and David keeps me posted on some of the games, and I'm disappointed that I can't watch him. But maybe when it gets down into the finals and the semifinals. So I was watching clips, and it made me think about how things have changed, and you go back, and maybe one of the greatest sports events of all time. Certainly for me, it might be number two. Number one was the Jets winning the Super Bowl. But the miracle on ice when we beat the Russian national team, the Red Army team, in the Olympics. And basically, that was magic, the miracle on ice, right? Al Michaels with the famous call, "Do you believe in miracles?" And then, all those great players, Ruzioni and Jim Craig in the goal, and the drama. Oh, my goodness. And a number of the players went on to play in the NHL and had fairly good careers. Pavlich with the Rangers, and Craig didn't last too long in the NHL. But I think he had some nagging injuries. Good, solid stand-up goalie with a lot of good size to him. And you had Kenny Morrow, right? So, any rate, fantastic moment. And I miss that. I don't know how things always change for the worse. And I'm a positive guy. I'm just trying to be New Jersey factual. Why are the NHL players in the Olympics? And everybody's like, oh, well, that's because, they want them to have the best competition. The fans deserve the best competition in the world. And the professional players bring that. I mean, it's not only the hockey guys. Most of these athletes are professionals now, whereas they used to be amateurs. And I used to love that. I remember as a kid, only a little boy watching the Mexico City Olympic Games, Mexico. And I can't tell you the year, Summer Olympics. And they'd have Joe, the weightlifter guy. Joe comes out, and he's a welder from Des Moines, Iowa. He's this big giant guy who welds all day, but he also competes in the Olympics in the weightlifting. And that was classic stuff. That was fantastic stuff. And that's all gone now. It's all gone. They're professionals. That's what they are. The National Hockey League sends their players over there, and the other countries that play hockey on professional level, they send their best. I'm sure there's some more what would be considered amateurs on these hockey clubs. I don't know. I haven't gotten into it, deep dived into it enough to say. But regardless, you're watching the National Hockey League, USA, Canadians, Finns, whatever nationality teams they're representing, and they're in the Olympics. And it doesn't have the same magic for me. I mean, I would watch it if I could and support the United States team, of course. But it doesn't have the same magic as watching a bunch of college guys with a fantastic coach, one of the great hockey coaches of all time, Herb Brooks, and go and take down the amazing Red Army. I mean, Tretiak and net, and they had to pull him. They pulled Tretiak, put the backup. But I mean, the magic, the true miracle of that. And me as an old hockey player, an old goalie, very old, this all made me think about hockey. And I would love to sit with one of these young hockey players and just talk to them and interview them and ask a United States player, preferably, how did you get into hockey? What was your story? What brought you all the way from there to the National Hockey League to the Olympics? And don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic thing to represent your country, a dream come true. But I would love to know their story because for us, Jeff, my buddy Jeff, the great Harry, all the guys, Ray, Big George, Big Wex, handsome Mike, the Italian kid, Johnny the Cho. What a great center iceman, Johnny the Cho. And all these guys that we played with street hockey to start was our infancy. And I would love to hear their story because I know my story. As a kid from Paterson, New Jersey, Haledon, New Jersey, hockey was a cold sport. It wasn't as popular. I mean, we knew of it and you tune it in on the TV on occasion, but it wasn't a sport. In my house, of course, it was the Yankees. My old man was a huge Yankee fan, and football with the Giants, and then the Jets with Joe Willie and all this great bravado that he brought, and a little bit of Knicks. What a great year, right? If you think back, 68, 69 in New York City, New Jersey, that part of Connecticut that hangs with New York. The Mets win the World Series, right? The Miracle Mets, and then the Knickerbockers win the NBA championship, and the Jets win the it's just Super Bowl III. And for me, the ultimate cool was Walt Clyde Frazier, right? We had Clyde on the Knicks, and you had Joe Willie. Can you get two cooler guys? I don't think so. And even Tom Seaver over on the Mets side was kind of cool. That Mets team, think about it. Nolan Ryan couldn't crack the starting lineup. He had control issues, but starting pitching. What a great baseball team that was, the Miracle Mets. But anyway, I digress. But hockey was a cold sport, and for us to get into it, it was magical. And truly, it changed my life. It really, really changed my life. And I wrote about the infancy of my hockey career in two books. Geyer Street Gardens. And I want to talk about Geyer Street in Haledon Borough, New Jersey. And Geyer Street Gardens is a novel. It's a fictional novel. And if I had to really pick and dissect what novel really was or is, because I'm still writing novels, Quest for Good is a novel, is my favorite, I'd be really hard to press to do it. But I think Geyer Street Gardens is probably for me, my most emotional, personally emotional novel, as well as my I guess, most realistic novel. And it was Frankie T who read one of my hockey books. Maybe it was O'Malley. And he said, you can tell you played the sport, Paulie, because I love when you write about the hockey scenes because you're looking at it from a perspective of a goalie staring out at the ice at the rink from behind the mask. And Geyer Street Gardens is really a story about, and it's beneath the mask, is subtitle Beneath the Mask of a Hockey Goalie. It's really about how a sport transformed a person's life. And then I wrote about my hockey experience in Experiences, a series of essays on my life. There's a whole chapter there devoted to how hockey changed my life and my perspective. I don't think I'd had lived my life and had any success in various things that I ventured into, except for the fact that I played hockey goaltender. It taught me so many different things: teamwork, to analyze things, to be dedicated, to take care of your body, to nurse injuries, and just all the things that I learned. I even learned geometry from playing hockey, cutting angles. But it's so interesting. I think we were about 12 or 13, and we were bored stiff in the old hood. And it was Jeff, the great Jeff, who came up with a suggestion, because Jeff used to watch the hockey and on TV more than what we did. And he said, let's throw the football. And Harry and I are like, nah, we threw the football. Let's play wiffle ball. Let's do all this stuff. And no, we ought to play hockey. And Jeff came up with the suggestion that we ought to play some street hockey. So we got on our bikes, cobbled together some money, and we pedaled all the way from Haledon up to the North Haledon 5 and 10 on High Mountain Road. And I guess that's, I don't know. I'd have to look it up. 6 miles, 5 miles, I don't know. And we pedaled all the way up there and we cobbled together enough money to buy hockey sticks and a plastic hockey puck that they used in street hockey. And let me tell you something, those things are hard. I still have grooves on my shin bones from those. And we didn't have any other equipment. We literally bought sticks and a puck. And I didn't have enough money for the stick that I wanted, a shooting stick. And somebody had to be the goalie. And Jeff says, well, that's a goalie stick there. And it was on sale because nobody wants to be a goalie. And now I understand why. So I bought the goalie stick and I got a baseball glove. And Jeffrey, he got me one of his old man's work gloves to put on my other hand. And I stood in front of this old warehouse door. No mask, no chest protector, no leg pads, nothing, just a pair of sneakers. And the guys took shots at me. And the first day I got a giant welt on my leg bone from making a save. And the bug bit us. And it just bit us. And there it was by accident because it was cheaper and I didn't have the dough. I became a goalie. And there was something magical about it. It was something, it was a challenge. And yes, I could shoot and run around and score, and I had a pretty good shot, and I was fast on street hockey and all that. But there was just something magical about being a goalie for me. It was the challenge. And I think that's why, if you have success in life, you're not afraid to accept the challenges. And as a goalie, you got to be able to accept the challenge of the shooter. There's nobody behind you. It's a lonely position. I think it was Jacques Plante, the great goalie. He said, how would you like to have a job where you made a mistake, they turn a light on, and thousands of people boo you? It's Bertie Perrant. You don't have to be crazy to be a goalie, but it certainly helps. So it's a lonely position, but to me, forget all that yakety smackety and they talk about all this stuff, the NFL, the NFL, the NFL, and all these quarterbacks get on there and spout off this nonsense about how an NFL quarterback's the most difficult position. I think I've dwelled on this in another podcast, but no, it's an NHL goalie. A soccer goalie second, and that is so big. But the speed, the danger, the puck comes at you, even with this modern equipment they have now. But we started our infancy on street hockey. And around the corner, and you can look this up on the Google Maps, is Geyer Street. And Geyer Street was a dead-end street, and it led to a bunch of factories. Old silk factories, fabric factories were down at the end of the street. And it had this stretch, had one house, an old house this old woman lived in. It was a fascinating house because she had chicken coops at one time, and there still was water raceways and feeders and stuff in the backyard. The chicken guys were gone, but had a cool fence, and then it had another fence where we used to cut through to go to school. I think it was another factory on the side of that, and it was perfect. And on the other side, the left side, were garages where this guy had antique cars. So it was perfect to have like a little hockey rink there. And it was just a certain stretch of the road that we calculated and laid out. And you had boards, you had boards on each side. Of course, if you missed the net, it goes all the way down the street. But that was where we started to set up and play street hockey. And we didn't have any nets. We just used posts. We got these wooden posts, and I'd stand between the posts, and Jeff and Harry would shoot at us and shoot at me. And of course, you have arguments of whether or not the puck really went in the net, so to speak, even though it was this post. And that's where we started. We started on Geyer Street, a dead-end street playing street hockey. And then we talk about it in school. And we talk it up and we talk it up. And the guys would be like, yeah, hey, that sounds kind of cool. That sounds fun. And one thing led to another. And before you know it, we had Johnny and we had Mike and we had Pooch, Stevie. We called him Pooch. and Jeff, of course, and Harry, and Big George, and Big Wex, and all the neighborhood guys that get together, Ray, and before you know it, we had Tony T, we had tags, and tags, and all these kids. I mean, we're on the cusp of being teenagers. Maybe we're teenagers, and we start playing street hockey, and that was the birth of what we called the Haledon Hockey League. And one thing led to another. And before you know it, we had organized teams and we were playing neighborhood teams from Patterson. There was a bunch of kids played street hockey over there at Buckley Park off of Chamberlain Ave, the Buckley Park Bruisers. And we took them on in a famous Thanksgiving day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday day. And then we played them one time in the snow. It's nothing like playing street hockey in the snow. And we'd be out there. We had clocks. We had time clocks. We had penalty box. And the neighborhood would come watch these games. Before you know it, we beat the Buckley Park Bruisers. And then they came back for a rematch, and we beat them. Harry missed the one game, and Johnny the Cho had a terrible head cold, and we struggled to beat him the first game, but we came back and beat him handedly in the rematch. So before you know it, we have all this organized teams and leagues and playoffs, and it's fantastic stuff. And we're just a bunch of kids. But we're off the streets in an area that you can get in a lot of trouble on the streets back then. And we organized it ourselves, and we dedicated ourselves to the mission. And goodness gracious, did we have a great time. And oh yeah, we got hurt. I had, oh my gosh, I forget what my stitch count is in my head alone. And gradually we got money to get some equipment, Christmas time, you get something, or your birthday. We all came from poor families. It wasn't like we could go to the market and just pick out anything we wanted or go on the big internet and afford equipment. I remember my dear mom, she got tired of me coming home with these big giant welts on my chest. And she didn't know anything about hockey, but coming from England, of course, knew about football, soccer. So she took an old quilt and she sewed it inside a big old sweatshirt that I had. She put this quilt and she sewed it as padding for a chest protector. And she took an old pair of my dungarees and she sewed these quilts onto my legs. So I had leg pads, you see. And I still used a baseball glove to catch and a work glove. And I finally got a good pair of work boots so those slappers off my feet didn't break my toes anymore. And my old man worked a deal with Dr. Harami across the street, a neighborhood doctor. The books, I call him Dr. Salami, to a discount on stitches. And we had broken fingers and all stuff, but it taught us to be tough. That's for sure. It taught us to be tough. And but I think the most famous Geyer Street incident comes from when we started to get more advanced in hockey. And this is in Geyer Street Gardens. We came up with this idea that we needed to draw lines. You see, we would take chalk and draw it on the asphalt. We put a center line in, and we put the goal lines and put a crease. We didn't play face-off circles. We didn't play blue lines. If you know a hockey rink, we didn't play the blue lines because the rink was not that long. We had to pick a stretch that had the fences there. So it was not that long. So we just used a center line for offsides. And we only played 3-man teams. We didn't have enough kids, you see, and it wasn't a big rink. So we had 2 offensive, defensive players and a goalie. That was our teams. And my team was me in the net and Harry and Jeff. And then you had Big Wex and Johnny the Cho and I think Mike in net on the other team. And so we divided the teams up. There were only 3 teams. That's all we had enough kids for. But we got this idea that we had to put permanent lines on the street. Now, this street is actually technically the borough of Haledon Street. So I was a little apprehensive. You see, I was the conservative goody two shoes kid. Harry, of course, was the leader of the controversial end. And he always called me an old lady. Still calls me an old lady to this day. Stop being an old lady, number 27. I wore number 27. My father had a dream about me playing hockey in number 27. A little unusual number for a goalie to wear. There was a goalie for the Maple Leafs, and Ron Hextall also wore 27. So not totally out of the whack, but at any rate. So he always number 27, a nickname of mine, and we get this idea that we're going to paint the lines on Geyer Street. And I was like, guys, come on, man. That's like public property. We're defacing public property. Oh, stop. Just an old dead-end street that tractor trailers go up and down. Only the one lady lives there. She ain't got to care. So we cobbled together. Jeff and Harry convinced me to be part of their evil plan, because we did need permanent lines. A lot of controversy about where the crease was and the goal line and everything caused a lot of arguments. So we get these straight edges. We get this. We were very ingenious kids. Jeff built nets out of wood and chicken wire that weighed about 72 tons. And then later, when Harry got more advanced at his welding shop, he actually made these like professional nets. It was amazing what we did. We incorporated so much into this, skills and ingenuity and dedication. But anyway, we get these straight edges and we sneak over there. I think it was like late spring. And of course, we're going to do this at night because, the factories are shut down except for late shift workers, but they're not going to get traffic. The tractor trailers are not going to come in. And I think it was just a security watchman on the one shift on Friday night or Saturday night. So we sneak over there, and we just got a can of white paint. I don't know. I doubt it was even exterior paint. It was probably interior latex, because the lines faded pretty quick. But we got this big old bucket of paint, and we go over there, and here it is. Now, for you folks that grew up in Haledon Borough that might be listening to this podcast, is a unique thing. And I think it's not too unique in northern New Jersey at the time, but they had a fire alarm system throughout the borough. And it worked later on in my life, I actually worked on one of these fire systems in Alpine, New Jersey as an electrician. So they have these big giant fire horns. I'm not making this up, folks. Throughout the borough, right? And on various poles in the streets in the city and the borough, you have these pole boxes. And it says fire, and that's what would be the fire alarm. If you had a fire alarm, they didn't have 911 back then, and you ran out and you found a pole box and you pulled this, and it sent the electricity up the pole. This is how old I am, and then it sent it to the fire horn, and there was a relay system. I learned how these worked. So it would blast the horn according to the location of where the fire was. It's a very unique thing. And we lived far away. You could barely hear the horn, but the horns were strategically located throughout the borough, and that would dispatch the fire company to know where the fire was. So every year, the volunteer fire companies, 1 and 2 for Haledon, would publish their calendars. And on the calendar was the codes. And you'd have like 110 would be Cook Street and Belmont Ave. And 112 is Tilt Street and Belmont Ave, et cetera, so forth. All these codes. And the horns would blow with pauses, okay? It would go, so that was 112, like a horn Morse code. And these horns are loud, and so it was kind of a pastime in Haledon for people to listen to where the fire was. The horns would go off. And Harry, being the great Harry, he has these codes like memorized in his head. you know, we all knew the code for school, which I think was 333. School is off, and you listen when it snowed to hear if the code went off for no school, which rarely it did. But Harry was like an encyclopedia, and his family loved calamity, so they knew all the codes. So we sneak out, and you can't make this stuff up. This is actually in the book, and it's not fiction. This is nonfiction. So we sneak over to Geyer Street Gardens to paint our lines, you know, and I'm all nervous about it anyway. And we start painting the lines. And we paint the goal line, and Jeff's laying out the crease for the one, and then we work our ways to the face-off circles, and we're working, and it's starting to get a little dark. Like I said, it's late spring, so we didn't want to do it in the cold where the paint would freeze, but it's getting a little colder. And all of a sudden, the fire horns go off. You start hearing the fire horns. we're working, and Harry's like, "Hey, wait a minute, guys! I gotta count the horn." And we stand up, and Harry's going in his mind, and he's got his fingers out, and he's counting on his fingers. He's like, 2, 3, 4, and Jeff's like, "All right, let's get back to work. We got to get this done." And Harry's like, "No, wait a minute, guys, wait a minute." And now we're up to about center ice, center of the rink, center ice, center of the street, and we're working our way to the other goal. And Harry's like, wait a minute, guys. I think this is a problem. So Harry is standing up there, and he's thinking, and all of a sudden you can hear, in the outskirts of the borough, you hear like fire trucks, and the horns stop. I was like, "Harry, let's keep going." He's like, "Guys, that fire alarm is for Brower Brothers. It's for Geyer Street." So we think Harry's just pulling our leg. I was like, "Harry, come on, get back." He's, "No, I'm not kidding. It's Geyer Street." We're like, "You got to be kidding me, Harry." He's like, "No, that's why the fire engines are getting closer and closer. I'm never wrong. I know my fire horns. It's Geyer Street." So we grab our sticks and our straight edges and our bucket of paint and our paintbrush. And no, correction, we forgot the bucket of paint because the fire engines and the police are now charging down the roads, and we jump over the fence and go hide in the weeds on the side of Geyer Street in this woman's front yard. And here come the fire engines, and here come the police cars, and here they all come charging up the street. And sure enough, they hit the paint bucket. And I can remember the paint bucket going flying up in the air, and paint going all over the side of the fire engine. And we took off. We ran. That was it. We split up, ran through the neighborhood, and lost each other in the neighborhood. Figured we would rendezvous at a later time. And when we came back to Geyer Street the next day, our lines that were still wet, there was all fire truck lines all over the place. The squished paint bucket was tossed on the side. We had a hockey rink of mess. Luckily, the tire tracks wore off with the lines, and so what are the odds that these 3 dopey teenage kids decide to do this? I guess vandalism for a good cause, to paint our hockey rink on the street, and the doggone fire alarms go off. And it was for the factory, and of course it was a false alarm. And we got the fire engines for Haledon Borough up and down the hockey rink. And so we heard from Harry's brother-in-law, Ronzo, the famous Ronzo, who knew a lot of guys in the firehouse, that they had to get the latex paint off the side of the fire engine, because they always keep their fire engines nice and clean and polished, because some dopey kids painted a line on. It's a true story. It's in Geyer Street Gardens, folks. Any rate, so the infancy, and from there we graduated to, and guys grew up and they moved away, and they went to college, and everything. We got older in high school, and sadly the Haledon Hockey League faded away, and but it was where hockey was born for us. So I would love to interview some of these young fellas and find where hockey was born for them, because it led to me. And then I played roller hockey, and Harry and I picked up playing hockey all over the place. And then when they built the famous Ice World Arena over in Totowa, this was a dream come true. And by this point, guys had girlfriends, and some guys got married, and the nucleus of the hockey was gone. But I continued on, learned to skate, ice skate, easy graduation from rollerblades, roller hockey, and street, and got pads. I got real equipment, saved my money. By this time, I'm working now. And one thing led to another. And before you know it, I'm playing ice hockey, like a dream come true. And here I am on the ice rink. And I enrolled in this goalie clinic at Ice World for goalies. It cost me a lot of money at the time. And I was very, very fortunate that the coach, two coaches in the goalie clinic, and one was Camille Henry. And Camille Henry was a great hockey player for the New York Rangers in a bygone era, a little French-Canadian man, a very, very short guy, but very powerful. And what a wonderful man he was. Set all kinds of power play records for the Rangers. I think he won the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year. And unfortunately, career was hampered by a lot of injuries and some other outside things. But what I learned from Camille Henry was amazing. So here I am, a kid that played on Geyer Street Gardens, Dead End Street painting lines, who started in sneakers with a baseball glove. And now I got full goalie equipment, and I'm playing on the ice. And in this goalie clinic. And I remember everybody was disappointed for, I think, the first 2 months of the goalie clinic. All we did was skate. Skate around cones, skate. We didn't even face any shots, because the goalie has to be the best skater on the team. And I think that's lacking in the NHL and in high hockey circles now with this new modern style of goaltending. And I'm not going to get into that, but that'd be a rant. But I mean, skate. And then eventually we face shots and divide everybody up. But Mr. Henry took a liking to me. And later on, he coached me on some other teams, and he'd come down, talk to me, and take shots on me. So here I am. A kid from Patterson playing street hockey, and now I'm facing shots from a great NHLer. And oh my goodness, like most French Canadians of that era, could he skate? Oh my goodness gracious, what a beautiful skater. And when the puck would go down the other end, he'd pick up a puck and he'd take shots on me. And he had a great backhand shot. His backhand shot was as hard as a modern wrist shot these days. And I just marveled at this man's skill. At that point, he was probably 65. And I had played some pond hockey with some guys that were, college players and such. And I faced some pretty hard shots at that point. And you get good winners. I almost grabbed my skates the other day and went out on the ponds here in Virginia. It was good ice, but I didn't. Probably a good idea. I'd end up in the emergency room. But Mr. Henry would take shots. And I remember one time during the goalie clinic, we lined up goalies, and nobody could stop Mr. Henry. We lined up, we'd each take a shot, and I was like fifth in line. And our other coach was a goalie, Jim. And Jim played in semi-pro leagues and some junior leagues up in Canada. I think he was Canadian, I don't remember. And he gets frustrated with us that we're a bunch of bums and can't stop Camille Henry's shot. So he grabs a goalie stick from one of us, and he had his pads on. He flips his mask on. He gets in there, and Camille Henry turns him inside out like a pretzel and tucks it under the crossbar. And he blamed it on the stick. It wasn't his stick. And he was trying to show us a technique, and he got embarrassed by a great shooter. So now I get in the net, and sure enough, he comes in. And I always remember, up until that point, I played with a lot of guys, and the shooters would come down, and you stay square to the shooter, and you study him. And I would look at their eyes right before I figured they're going to take the shot to see where they're shooting in the net. But when I studied Mr. Henry's eyes, he was looking straight at me. He wasn't looking at the puck, and he wasn't looking at the net. He wasn't giving anything away. This is a professional NHL hockey player. Sure, he's old. and he's staring straight at me through my mask. And I was like, uh-oh. And he dekes me, and I fall on the ice, and he throws it, and I just got my stick glove up, and I stopped him. I was the only goalie to stop him at that point. And the puck just went over the top of the crossbar. I remember laying on the ice. I was like, holy smokes, I actually made a save on an NHL player. So after that practice training session, I was getting changed in the locker room. And Mr. Henry came in. He had a nice French accent, and he sat down next to me, and he patted me on the back, and he said, hey, kid, that was one hell of a save you made there. He said, I want you to know that I wasn't going easy on you. I was going to score. And he asked me, he said, you got a chance to be somebody. It's tough for an American. I wasn't a college kid, didn't have money to go to college, and get an invite to juniors is tough back in that day and age. And he said, man, you got some great skills. Where on earth did you learn to play goal like that? And I said, Geyer Street Gardens, sir. Hey, he says, Geyer Street Gardens, never heard of it. I said, you wouldn't. I said, street hockey. It was a dead-end street in our old neighborhood. And I remember he got this giant smile on his face. And he said, Geyer Street Gardens, Geyer Street, dead end. He said, mine was, and he said it in French, some name, Jalou Labouz, I don't know what he said. And he said, that's where I learned to play. You could just see the memory spinning in his head, of where he learned to play hockey before he could skate and before he had money. And he grew up in Quebec province. He said in a poor family, and he made it all the way to the NHL, to the New York Rangers in the old 6 league, the original 6, where you had to be the best of the best. Only 6 teams, folks. Not like now where it's watered down. He only had 6 teams. And he made it all the way from his street, all the way there. And of course, I didn't make it past some semi-pro circles, and I got an invite and played some teams and had fun at it till a slap shot broke my kneecap, and that was about the end of the road for me. It tucked behind my pads, and I was getting older now, and I had to give up the dream, but I had fun. I mean, I played the equivalent, I guess, like the Charlestown Chiefs and Slapshot, these old arenas. Muncie, New York, Sportorama down on the Jersey Shore. But great memories. And like I said, playing goal really changed my life. And I'd love to sit with one of these young fellas. I really would. And see if they have a Geyer Street. I'm sure they do, or a favorite pond, or some of these USA players coming from, upper Minnesota, Michigan, Vermont, upstate New York, New Hampshire. I'm sure they played a lot of pond hockey, backyard hockey. And I don't see this anymore. And it's one of the sad things, being in Virginia for a little while. I've never seen kids playing street hockey here in Virginia. Now, hockey's not a huge sport here, but you do have the Capitals. You got the Hurricanes, Whalers just south in Raleigh. For that matter, I've never seen kids playing stickball. I've never seen kids playing wiffle ball or tag. I've seen kids kick a soccer ball back and forth. I've never seen anybody play sandlot sports here. I've seen kids shooting hoops. It's mystifying to me. I've never rode by a baseball stadium, a little league stadium or a pony league stadium or something on a Saturday afternoon and seen kids, hitting fly balls. I've just never seen it. I just don't know why. So is everybody just playing video games? Has the world changed that much? Because what we created as a bunch of kids, just these bunch of dopey teenagers, changed all of our lives, I think. I think if you talk to Jeff, you talk to Harry or Ray or Mike or Big George, anybody who was part of the Haledon Hockey League, how much fun we had and how much it taught us. And I feel sad that kids nowadays, young people, don't do these things. And it's kind of mystifying. So, like I said, I feel bad that there's NHLers in the Olympics and you don't have the story of the college kid or the junior kid who just gets good skills and gets on the Olympic team and beats the Russians. And I guess I guess it's akin to me stopping Mr. Henry, right? Or it's the same as beating the Buckley Park Bruisers, who were much older and bigger than us. And I stopped the guy on a breakaway to save the game. These are memories that I have. And that's the glory of sports. No, I never made it to the NHL or the AHL or any L. But I did make it to the Haledon Hockey League. And I think that in my heart was the most important league of them all. Any rate, thanks for tuning in. And I have a suggestion. We've been spinning music here all weekend up to this point. I've been listening to Leon, the Swedish singer-songwriter I mentioned, and just having a great time. So with all this stuff going on, tune out the news, folks. Tune in some music instead. I think it'll be better. Any rate, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed memories of Geyer Street and street hockey and all those things. And hey, what do I know? I'm just a guy from Geyer Street Gardens in Haledon, Patterson, New Jersey. Number 27. Hey, please be kind, be gentle, be very tolerant. Remember, kindness is for free. Spread it around as much as you can. It can only make this world a better place, right? Yeah. Hey, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Thank you so much.